Thieves will steal our cars, our valuables, just about anything they can get their hands on. To cut down on crime and antisocial behaviour, the police and other agencies are using new tactics and technology, so the bad guys get caught in the act.
The CCTV is gold dust.
Great evidence for the police.
Gotta have him stopped.
Local councils, shops and businesses are laying some traps of their own.
The eureka moment when you get that evidence.
And the general public too can help unsuspecting crooks get their comeuppance.
People won't stand by.
I couldn't sit back and do nothing.
Yes, we've got her.
So, anyone who's up to no good had better think twice. They might just get caught red-handed. Today, a masked armed robber in the high street.
When I first turned round and saw that he got a gun in his hand, I didn't really have much time to think.
But this gunman gets more than he bargained for.
I went for the hand with the gun, you know.
With a shocking result.
But it fired.
Also today, a family's best friend is dog-napped.
I just cannot even think about not having Charlie at all. I felt sick, upset, angry.
But a nationwide network of pet detectives sets out to collar the thief. And this shady pair of thieves hide handfuls of fashionable, stylish sunglasses in a very unstylish fashion. A jewellery shop in Barnstaple, Devon. The owner, David, is working on his own when a masked robber bursts in. Claiming he has a gun, he orders David to fill up a bag.
And he was a bit scary looking. He had a full latex mask on, which made him look a bit like a cyborg.
And it's then 71-year-old David makes a snap decision. He doesn't believe the man has a gun and reaches for a baseball bat he keeps in case of attack. But David's made a mistake because the robber does have a gun. There's a desperate struggle, and then the gun fires twice.
It's the kind of call that you never really want to hear. 2 shots fired in Barnstaple High Street.
Barnstaple is a busy market town and shopping centre in North Devon. David and his family have lived in the area for nearly 30 years. He's been a jeweller most of his life and opened this particular store 3 years ago.
It's a family business. My daughter-in-law, she was my first employee when she was 17. So I've seen her progress over all the years.
With a passion for antiques, David is a familiar figure bidding at auction houses around the area.
I enjoy sourcing various things, especially antique jewellery. That's the buzz. Always looking for the next thing, you know, the next deal, shall we say, yeah.
David's life now is a far cry from his youth, spent in tough areas of South London.
I was brought up, you know, in a sort of a poor situation. I have no brothers and sisters. I've always had to fend for myself. I was a mod and used to go down and have all these weekends down in Margate and Brighton, having fights and things with the rockers and stuff at the time.
David's days as a bit of a bother boy are long past, but he still knows how to defend himself. And in the jewellery trade, there's always the threat of trouble.
Jewellers are obviously the main target for any smash and grab or armed robbery, and there's probably not that many shops that have not been attempted to be robbed in the past.
David's daughter-in-law was once caught up in a raid when she was working at another jeweller's.
I think there was 3 or 4 of them in the shop, and they were robbed and tied up and everything. And they took quite obviously a large amount of stock.
So, as well as electronic security, David's always felt happier with a bit of extra protection in the shop. A baseball bat.
Never had to use one in the past, you know, I mean, it'd have to be something pretty serious for me to go to the lengths of picking up a baseball bat.
But on this day, something serious does happen. It's all captured on David's security cameras. It's Thursday afternoon. David's daughter-in-law has popped out for stamps, so he's alone in the shop when a masked figure rushes in.
When I saw him suddenly march straight in the shop real quickly and straight up to the counter, I knew immediately that there was something going to go down. And he was a bit scary looking. He had a full latex mask on, which made him look a bit like a cyborg. Dark glasses, scarf, big coat, gloves.
The man demands to have his bag filled with expensive items. He threatens David, saying he has a gun in his pocket.
It's all well and good him saying he got a gun. At that moment in time, I didn't believe him.
David turns his back and walks away. The robber follows.
Well, I think that he probably thought I was going to the safe.
But David's really heading for his baseball bat. He's hoping to frighten the man off. But he doesn't see that behind him, the robber's drawing a gun.
When I first turned round and saw that he got a gun in his hand, I didn't really have much time to think.
David instinctively reacts to defend himself.
I went for the hand with the gun, you know, and try and knock it out of his hand.
He strikes the gun hand. Then suddenly, the situation gets a lot worse.
But it fired.
The gun goes off, but David keeps going.
And I thought, well, I'm not hit.
The gunman dives down to pick up the used bullet casing. David chases after him. At the door, the robber turns back, defiantly. David knows he's now in real danger, so he goes for the gun again.
I then proceeded to give him another really hard whack with the bat across the wrist, and I hit it so hard at the time that the magazine flew out of the gun on the floor. The gun went off again, and then he ran across the road with the gun in his hand.
The gunman disappears down a side road. At this point, David's daughter-in-law returns to the store.
She heard 2 shots and saw the guy run out of the shop with the gun in his hand. So she immediately thought that she was going to find me on the floor in here when she returned. So she was probably more scared than myself.
Security staff at a nearby shop also hear the shots and call the police.
We had everybody here, you know. I mean, there was armed police, there was dog handlers, helicopters.
Despite a major search, the gunman has vanished. Later, the robbers left some DNA evidence, but it's no help.
This was somebody who hadn't come to police attention before.
But a supermarket CCTV video from a few days before the crime poses a question. What does this dangerous armed robber look like behind the mask? Surely not someone who looks like this, like the boy next door?
This young man, who had never been in trouble with the police before, from a very well-respected family, was now a prime suspect.
Most of the criminals we come across aren't exactly the sort of supervillains that you find in the movies. In fact, as far as criminal masterminds are concerned, these next 2 fall a little bit short. Short-sighted, that is. An optician's is about to be burgled by a pair of thieves who are so focused on stealing designer sunglasses, they're blind to the fact they're on camera. The store is closed, but these 2 break in, intent on some out-of-hours shopping. The gentlemanly thief holds the door for his partner in crime. There's obviously nothing wrong with their eyesight. They quickly spot the most expensive sunglasses and start ripping them off the shelves. With no more room in her bag, the woman starts shoving shades up her dress and makes a spectacle of herself. They eventually get away, albeit walking strangely, with 26 pairs, that's nearly £4,000 worth, and they're still at large. But police have released this footage, hoping the glare of publicity will prove too bright for this pair of shady characters, and they'll soon be well and truly in the frame. Coming up, a man removes a car window, but he's not there to repair it. He's stealing a bag off the back seat. But before he gets carried away with his crime, strapping security guards zip over to bag the blagger. And another crime, another bag. Police unmask the armed robber at the jeweller's with the help of a reusable bag for life and a few slices of ham. We love our canine companions. So, when a family pet gets taken for a walk by a stranger, the hunt is on to find a lead. Bradford, and a backyard that's home to Charlie, the miniature schnauzer, and his loving owners.
Charlie is a family member. He's more like a child than he is a dog.
One evening, Charlie's sitting out the back like a watchdog. But unfortunately, on this particular night, it's Charlie himself who's being watched. A man walks up to the wall. He leans over, and in one rough single movement, he grabs Charlie, taking away the friendly little dog and leaving behind a family that's shocked and distraught.
I just cannot even think about not having Charlie at all. Felt sick, upset, angry.
In desperation, the family turned to a nationwide army of dog owners who are joining forces to fight the rising problem of dog thieves.
We're all like a close-knit community of doggy detectives.
Charlie's out there somewhere. Andy and Annette had raised their family here in Bradford and moved to this house 15 years ago.
It's a nice place to live. It's just a normal multicultural place, and it's a family area. It's just a down-to-earth place to live.
Now they look after 6-year-old Kyla, their eldest son's daughter, as well as Ryan, their younger son, who's 18. And then there's Charlie, their 9-year-old miniature schnauzer.
Charlie's just, no, he's a family member. He's more like a child than he is a dog.
Just mixes with us. He has Christmas presents with us. Just so brilliant.
Throughout the day, he spends a lot of time with my granddaughter, who's autistic. As Kyla grew up, she became best friends with Charlie, because with her autism, she's not good at getting friendships and socialising with people. She's non-verbal as well, so she can't speak, so they do stuff together without her having to talk.
She'll point to him to do stuff and he'll do it. Absolutely brilliant together.
Charlie's also friendly with the neighbours.
He's a house dog, he's not a dog that's left in the garden. But when you do let him out, he'll do what he has to do, and then he'll stand at the gate and he'll watch for people, and a lot of people in the area know him. They all pat him on the head and give him a stroke.
Charlie's so important to them, they've had him microchipped. So if he was ever lost and found, he could be scanned to find out his address. The garden gate is padlocked, and although they've never had any trouble here, Andy recently decided to have a CCTV system installed.
And there wasn't a reason for doing it. It was just the fact that we've been here 15 years. We decided to upgrade our alarm system on the house, and after having done that, we put CCTV in.
And it's going to prove important that they did. It's a Wednesday evening, 9 p.m, and Kyla's in bed.
Myself and Andy were watching television. Ryan had gone out and he came back, let Charlie out.
While Charlie's in the garden, Ryan puts a pizza in the oven and pops upstairs.
So he came down, opened the door to shout Charlie back in, and he didn't come back in.
And then he said, "Where's Charlie?" And I said, "Well, he's outside." And he said, "No, he's not."
So we all went outside to look.
But there's no sign of Charlie anywhere.
That's when we decided that rather than go wandering looking for him, let's go have a look at CCTV and look at how he got out and what direction he went in.
And what they see shocks them all. Charlie sat at the gate watching the road. Their other camera shows a white van passing. A short while later, a man walks across the road and stands by the corner for a few moments. Then he walks along the hedge to near where Charlie's sitting in the back garden. He calls the friendly dog over, then checks up and down the street. Reaching over the wall to pet Charlie, the man signals to the white van with his right hand. Now he calls Charlie over to him again. Then suddenly grabs him by the collar and hauls Charlie over the wall and runs to the van. The family can't believe what they've seen on the CCTV.
I absolutely felt sick, upset, angry.
And my son said, "That's it, it's my fault, they've stolen him, they're going to use him as a bait dog, you know, he's going to get ripped to bits," and it was just a matter of sheer horror from my son.
You know, they wouldn't want him as a pet or anything if they're just going to drag him the way they did.
The worst things are in your mind of what could somebody be doing with him.
They have no idea why Charlie was taken. Andy phones the police while one of Annette's friends suggests something else they could do.
She actually said to me, put it on social media, you know, get the word out.
Within 10 minutes, we had footage on the media site and asked for any help to try and get him back.
A short while later, messages of support start to trickle in. They soon become a torrent.
It just sort of kicked off.
Within a couple of hours, it had gone phenomenal. That we had it were everywhere.
It's gone viral. No one knows what's happened to Charlie, but the couple have discovered a massive network of pet detectives. People like Diane. She's a dog owner in Bradford who has successfully helped to reunite lost pets with their owners.
There's thousands of people all over England that do what I do. I started on my laptop noticing that there were a lot of dogs being stolen and scanned through what dogs had been found and trying to match them up. It's hard sometimes, but when you get a result, it's brilliant.
As well as matching missing dogs to their owners, the detectives also put pressure on the dog thieves. They flood an area with pictures of a stolen dog to get hundreds of local dog lovers on the lookout.
You've just got to make it too hot to handle. They just can't sell that dog on immediately like they would do. You know, you usually find that they do dump the dogs then because there's nothing they can do with the dog then.
Diane's hopeful the dog detectives can help in Charlie's case.
I think the CCTV footage made him stand out really. It just spreaded like wildfire around the UK.
2 days go by. Charlie's story has also been in the local press, but there's still no news. It's a tough time for the family.
My son wasn't eating, he wasn't sleeping, he was just sat worrying. And obviously it had a big effect on Kyla because this were her friend basically.
On the third day, they decide to take Kyla to a theme park to help take her mind off Charlie. At the same time as they're driving, another driver called Daniel is also making his way through Bradford. Daniel's not a pet detective himself, but he happens to be Diane's son and shares his mum's interest and always keeps an eye out for stray dogs.
Me and my girlfriend were going to buy some new clothes, and as I was driving up the road, I just seen this little grey dog just running up the main road. So I rung my mum to see, you know, to ask her what I should do.
I said, well, what kind of dog is it? And he said, it's a grey terrier type looking dog. Instantly I thought of Charlie, so I sent him the picture and immediately he said, Mum, it's definitely him.
With the help of passers-by, Daniel manages to catch the bedraggled little dog.
He had like slight red bits on his paws, like he'd been bleeding. He were all wet and scruffy in his beard and down his paws. He started calming down when I got him home and got him some food and some water.
We knew instantly it was Charlie, because as soon as I called his name, he looked straight at me. So then we took him straight up to the local kennels to check for a microchip.
While the dog is scanned, Andy and Annette have arrived at the theme park. They get a message telling them that Charlie might have been found.
We were both sort of looking at each other saying, don't get your hopes up, it might not be him.
Then there's a phone call from staff at the kennels who retrieve Andy's number from the microchip.
And then Andy got off the phone and said, yes, it's Charlie, it's Charlie.
They were like trying to fight back the tears.
Great, brilliant. God for that.
Diane takes Charlie back to his home where the family's son Ryan is waiting.
Charlie just cried when he got there and Ryan opened the door. He just were crying to get into the house.
And then seeing what Ryan looked like, she said, I just wanted to give him a hug and a kiss. She said, but I didn't want to because he's 18 and I thought he didn't think he'd like, you know, me giving him a hug sort of thing.
That was a really emotional reunion as well.
When we got home then, he just went crazy.
Kyla she was just kissing him and cuddling him and stroking him.
Now Charlie is safely back home, and because no one can identify the thieves, the police decide to close the case. But the family thank everyone for their help. They have no doubt that it was the power of the online pet detectives that led to Charlie's release.
I think there was that much media about the dog. I think they just thought, you know, it's going to be a matter of time before we get caught.
People had been looking, is that dog? I really think because of media, yeah, it was returned because of that.
Daniel's become a bit of a local hero.
And I'm so proud of Daniel for helping. There's been women wanting to kiss my son. There's been hundreds of messages saying how wonderful he is.
Inspired by the help they received, Andy and Annette are now supporting the pet detectives themselves with their own internet page called Charlie's Angels.
Because we've had so much help from people, we thought we needed to pay people back because we knew how devastated we felt when Charlie went missing, but we also know how elated we were when we got him back. So it was like, if we can do that for at least one more person, at least we've given something back.
Andy and Annette faced a pet owner's nightmare when Charlie went missing. So, what steps can we take to help keep our pets safe?
Microchipping is a really effective way of being able to identify an owner of a dog.
But it's really important that you keep your details up to date. So if you do move house or change your telephone number, make sure you constantly update those details.
You'd be surprised, it's not just the high-value pedigree dogs that may be taken. Often some dogs are taken because of the nature of them, so if they're fighting dogs, for example, people may take them for that reason.
If you've got to let the dog out at the end of the evening before you go to bed, then a few things you can do. First of all, put a bell on the gate so that you can hear if anybody's actually accessed your garden. Listen out for passing motor vehicles. And thirdly, if you can, go out with them.
Often thieves will simply look at your pet as a commodity. Your dog to them could be worth £300–400.
For you, it's priceless, so make sure you look after your pet and protect it as best you can.
Now, a thief who tries a bit of backpacking, but ends up being scent packing. In broad daylight, a man tries to prise open a car window. It could be he's left his keys inside, but no, he has a quick look around, checks nobody's watching, and pops out the whole window pane and steals a bag off the back seat. Putting it on, he then struts off with an air of confidence that says, "Hey, I'm just an ordinary guy, not someone who's just stolen a backpack." But his attempt to hide in plain sight fails. On CCTV, an eagle-eyed security guard has seen him remove the rucksack and sends a colleague to run out and tackle the thief. The man drops the bag and tries to get away. He's definitely not strutting now. Two members of the public also join in the attempt to bag this thief. Though sensibly, they decide it's best not to get too physical and follow him, taking pictures on their phone. The owner of the backpack was grateful it was rescued, as it contained a valuable laptop. As for the thief, he bagged himself a ride in the back seat of a police car. In Barnstaple, Devon, jeweller David has used a baseball bat to fight off a masked robber who's threatening him with a gun. The gun's fired twice, but David isn't hurt, and the robbers fled.
It was a chance I took, and fortunately for me, it turned out to be okay. Afterwards, you can't sleep very well because you keep thinking about things, what might have happened, what did happen, etc. It plays on your mind, without a doubt.
The gunman's left empty-handed, but he's left behind some potential clues. In the scuffle by the door, David managed to damage the gun and its magazine clip flew off.
When I struck him on the wrist at that time, it's difficult to see, but the magazine ended up on the floor just by this cabinet.
Detective Inspector Praveen Naidu is in charge of the investigation.
It's the kind of call that you hear over the radio which you never really want to hear. 2 shots fired in Barnstaple High Street. David's daughter-in-law, who had heard shots, as far as she was aware, her father-in-law could have been shot dead.
His team finds that the gun's magazine is actually loaded with blanks. It might be an imitation weapon. But as well as the gun clip, the robber has also left his bag on the counter.
My granddaughter, who also works here, recognised the bag, that it was one that was being sold by one of the major supermarket-type stores close by.
It's a reusable bag for life. The bag and the gun clip are sent for forensic analysis. The results show both have traces of the same DNA. But unfortunately, it doesn't match any past offenders on the police database. The mystery deepens.
What that told us, this was somebody who hadn't come to police attention before.
It looks like this might be the man's first offence. Praveen's team will have to find another way to identify him. And the bag gives them another lead.
This bag, which in itself was quite distinctive, we could identify the shop that it came from, and we had a local branch of that shop.
This particular type of bag has only been on sale for 3 months, and when a sharp-eyed manager at the shop checks the till receipts for all the bags they've sold, she spots something strange.
It was a bag which one would reasonably expect to have been sold with larger quantities of goods, except for this one transaction the day before the robbery, for a bag for life and £2.50's worth of cam and ham.
Because it seems odd to buy such a large bag for one small item, she reviews the CCTV images to find out who bought the bag. It's this young man.
What we then did was to set about identifying who this person was.
Praveen appeals to the public for help, and the man's face appears in the local newspapers. And a few days later, an 18-year-old man comes forward saying he'd bought the bag.
When he came into the police station, he presented as a young man from a very well-to-do family, never been in trouble with the police before.
The man denies attempting to rob David and claims he bought the ham and then bought the bag on a whim.
That seemed odd, but being odd doesn't necessarily make him our offender.
To rule him out of the investigation, the police take his DNA.
It is something which we'd policied right from the outset, that anybody coming into our inquiry, we would take their DNA to obtain that comparison, because sometimes people lie to us.
A few days later, Praveen's team get a surprise from the lab.
The officer who took that phone call couldn't believe it. No, he was just completely taken aback by it.
The 18-year-old's DNA matches the samples found on both the gun clip and the bag left at David's jewellery shop.
This young man, who had never been in trouble with the police before, was now a prime suspect.
The police arrest him.
The suspect gave a full and frank admission, admitted to the officers that it was him that had done it, and at that point in time, clearly, we knew we'd got the right person.
Back at the jewellery store, David and his staff are glad the culprit's been caught.
Obviously, we were very, very happy, you know, because we all wanted to know who he was. We all wanted to see what was under that mask.
In court, the 18-year-old is sentenced to 3 years, 8 months for attempted robbery and 2 years for the possession of an imitation weapon. David's bravery helped lead to the man's conviction, but he took a big risk.
Fighting back under these circumstances is something that I'd never actively encourage, but if it weren't for the actions of Mr. Bruce, we wouldn't have retrieved the items that we did, we wouldn't have got the forensic evidence that we did, and we might not be in the position that we are in today where we've got a successful prosecution.
What took place, and I'm sure now that he's going to much regret it. He'll have plenty of time now to reflect on his misdemeanours.
David's improving security at his shop, and despite his recent experience, he isn't giving up the business just yet. David continues to bid for antique jewellery.
My wife would like me to retire, but as I always say, you're never too old to put your hand up at an auction.
That's it for today. Join us next time when police and the public catch more criminals red-handed.
A gruesome discovery, a chilling confrontation, and the nets closing in on John. Happy Valley, a dramatic conclusion tonight at 9 here on BBC One. Next, the Red Team lose themselves quite literally in the antiques fair. It's Bargain Hunt.